Hi, this is final. Some people call me Bones as well. What I'm about to say might be a little on the shocking side, but it needs to be said. And really, it's got to get out there somehow. People aren't as into reading as they are into watching videos or researching for themselves, for that matter, or talking to the right people. But, when you leak something out little by little, people, they get a good idea and they get more prepared. I'm trying to prepare people right now. I want to prepare people. Now, let's first look at things like the Mayan calendar. Okay. Now, the Mayans, they were simple people. I've already talked about all that. One thing I've never even mentioned, though, was how, if you think about it, they also believed that the universe worked in different. They had like a more universal calendar, that the universe worked in changes, and it had global representations. And there was like year of the fish, year of the dog, so on and so forth. And for the longest time, scientists were trying to come up with other explanations for the Mayan calendar ending, because they didn't want people to just speculate that it's just like the end of life, when that wouldn't make any sense. I realized that because the beginning of the Mayan calendar, which was in like 3000 BC, it was the beginning of a new cycle for them. And that's why it ends in 2012, because it simply begins a new cycle for them. It is a cycle. It's that simple. But what exactly are these cycles representing? The Mayans predicted that the approaching geological change happened over the course of about 5,000 years. 3000 BC to 2000 BC, AD, that's 5,000 years. 5,000 years before that, in 8100 BC, there was another geological drastic change that marked the end of the Ice Age. So they literally mapped it out in cycles, geological cycles, cycles that the entire planet, made drastic changes with. Ricky points out that people look at 2012 and they think about it as the end, and they so ignorantly don't even look at all the changes going on around them, that things are changing, that they're not ending, that they're changing, and it's been a global change. But what Ricky didn't even realize or do any research about, apparently, was that also these changes happened before, at the beginning of this cycle, and once again, another 5,000 years before that. It's 5,126 years, but 5,000 years, roughly. And he was right when he told me that people don't pay enough attention to what's going on around them. They need to worry less about worrying about things that have been predicted in the past is important. But it's not good to look at things that have happened in the past from an ignorant perspective of not even researching it, just assuming what people have told you. People need to research. They need to look things up. If you just assume, you don't know shit. But I personally see a lot of this as self-inflicted, because as the climate has been drastically changing, the global surface temperatures rising from the greenhouse gases getting trapped when the sun's rays are coming down to Earth, and because when the greenhouse gas is trapped, what happens is the rays, they come down and they stop. Instead of bouncing back up into space, they stop on Earth, and they stop at particular gases. Carbon dioxide, things like water vapor and other traces of gases. And as we are increasing those gases with our vehicles and such, I mean, come on. The emissions are going through the roof. Car sales are going through the roof. People are buying cars like crazy these days. Have you heard about the expansion in Dubai? It is insane. In 1990, Dubai had only like 20 major buildings in them, like skyscrapers. Very few residential areas, because Dubai's a desert, okay? Now, if you go to look at Dubai, it's worse than Miami. It has skyrocketed through the United National Arab immigrants, that all went over there with their riches. I mean, it's mostly wealthy people that went there, and they're using the cheapest forms of labor to get it all done, and they're really just cutting everything down because they're using resources from places like America and such, and they're using workers from little. I don't want to use any negative language. People that are willing to work for a low cost. I mean, its tallest building has over 160 floors. It has like 165 floors or something like that. It's insane. It's like 818 meters tall, or like 850 meters, something like that. It's huge. They got some of the latest designs in architecture. Things that will make their buildings withstand hurricanes or have very abstract designs and still be sturdy and hard to destroy from natural disasters. And ultimately, from the climate rising so high, the Earth itself has increased 2 centimeters from purely ice melting. Now, when ice melts, often things like avalanches happen. Drastic avalanches. Have you ever seen a glacier? Like a massive glacier that's protruding out of a large rock formation that avalanches. When it hits that water, it creates an earthquake, just as seismic as the underwater earthquakes. I mean, just huge, like the 8.0 earthquakes, massive, record-breaking. And this is a good portion of why scientists think that we're only seeing the beginning of some of the most worst natural disasters in history, because I mean, the ice caps are melting at an alarming rate. And on this planet, little changes make a huge difference. If you shift the poles slightly to the left or right, it's going to change the weather patterns all over the planet. I mean, take a look at all the floods and natural disasters that have been increasing over the past 10 years. 10, 25 years. It has been a slow change. And it will slowly continue to change. That to us may seem incredibly slow, but on an earthly scale, on the Earth's entire life cycle, because the Earth's a living thing too, in a sense. And its entire life cycle is just a small hiccup, but to us, the little ants that are crawling across its surface, it's catastrophe. Some people are worried about continental drifts, because when you have the continent shifts, the weather has to change. It has to change because when the tectonic plates are moving, it has an effect on the landscape, and it affects the atmosphere, and it affects everything around us. Scientists have even guessed things of accidents happening in the universe, where when the planets align up, there is a shift in energies, where the sun is pulled, where the solar flares get pulled out a little bit harder of a hit than normal. And the hit's so incredibly powerful that scientists in 2009 predicted that somewhere around 2014, a solar flare could hit the Earth and knock out all of our satellites and really disrupt our magnetic field. Briefly. But a lot of crazy, but some of these scientific readings were quickly disbanded because other researchers, they go in behind the person, they go ahead and they start mapping out the distance between the stars, and they start realizing, yeah, that's not going to happen because the distance between these energies are too drastic. And that's why some things like that have been predicted to be false, which is why a lot of people think that the Mayan calendar is false, because a lot of the things that they pronounced to be true weren't true, like the world being flat. But you gotta look at the fact that they had a really good astronomical and understanding of the entire universe that we are just now starting to get to. I mean, they knew about galaxies that we are just now discovering, and they were predicting the movements, and they were predicting the time frequency, like the time periods of such, and that would have to be monitored over such a long period of time just to figure out, and that's with a giant telescope to match. You'd have to see if over periods of days in some of the star clusters might have shifts or changes that might affect the time-lapsing periods and such. So it would be incredibly complex for them to even understand such things that are beyond their level of society. I mean, they were such a basic means of society. It's pretty obvious that when they were talking about the gods guiding them and helping them, it's pretty obvious that they're not talking about fictitious characters that they believe to be real entities, but they were talking about actual entities that were here that they called gods, because, I mean, I don't even want to get into that. Anyways, and with all these physiological changes, there's going to be new plants, new animals, new diseases, new sicknesses. How much fun will that be? Some people are calling it the light age, because people right now are in a sort of dark age where people are so incredibly ignorant and they're so consumed with entertainment. There's not enough caring or people trying to there's too many people trying to swindle, too many people trying to cut corners in life. Sure, we have built quite an empire, but take a look at 9/11. I mean, the terrorist. That's not even the pinnacle of the accumulation of corruption that we have been through to get to this point. Religion is only an example of the lies and deceptions that run the society. There's things like religion that are going to die out when it comes to this new age. Some people may turn to religion not really for guidance, but for sanctuary. Because we now associate sanctuary, a lot of people are becoming atheists because we now associate sanctuary with wealth and power and corruption. It's no longer associated with a spiritual connection. So people don't need to believe in a falsehood. No, stop it. God damn it. My dog's freaking biting me like crazy. Wants to play so much. Puppies. Anyways, and ultimately, I really want to help people through this, because the sooner we can get a good grips on things, because it's obvious that things are getting worse, okay? I don't need to convince you that things are getting worse and that things are going to get worse, because it's obvious, okay? I simply want to help people through this, enlighten people, and help them understand how to survive in nature, because there's a good chance we're going to lose most of what we have. And all the people like terrorists who hide out in bunkers all day, who spend all their time worshipping and trying to figure out how to defeat their enemies, those are the people that aren't even going to get around to seeing my video or figuring out what exactly is going on in the world, or connect the dots even. They're going to be so consumed with themselves. Those are the people that are going to get wiped out. So, a lot of this negative energy is just going to get destroyed. And so, really, with a lot of bad things come good things. I'll give you a good example. A while back, actually, for a couple of years, my dad has had a coughing problem, where whenever he'd drink water or drink anything, he'd cough. And doctors told him, well, it's the mucus on the back of your throat, and when you drink something, the mucus gets knocked off and it causes a tingling feeling in your throat, which means that he has an excess form of mucus, more than most people have, which is actually very believable because I have the same thing. I used to have a deviated septum, and when I had it fixed, they had to put all these big, huge things in my nasal cavities, and when they pulled them out, it sort of stretched out my pools. So now, all that accumulation that I've always had that would have made my nose like really drippy, instead it just sits in those pools. So I naturally also have the same problem. So they kind of used it as like a crutch. But it didn't really help my father, because what happened was it was getting to the point where it was only happening when he drank water. And he was starting to think, am I allergic to water? So one day, me and my dad, we go to some kind of breakfast place. I don't even remember. But we got food poisoning the next day. And we were so sick and puking all day long. And 2 days later, when we no longer had the food poisoning and it had passed through us, his coughing was gone. And ever since, his coughing is gone. And I asked him, how is it that your coughing disappeared after the food poisoning? And he said, well, when he threw up, this large yellow ball came out of his throat in the puke, like it had been lodged in his throat or something, or in his stomach or something, or like in one of his tubes. Because when you throw up, it accesses all parts of your body. It's not just your stomach. You're flexing everything on the inside to get it out. That's why sometimes when you're puking, if you're like drunk or something, you feel like you're puking out your insides. That's because you're clenching everything on your insides. It's not just your stomach. You're clenching everything. Your liver, everything's trying to get out all the poisons. So naturally, when my dad saw this, when he saw this, naturally he didn't think anything of it. He threw it in the toilet, washed it away. He should have kept it and had it analyzed. But he told me it was fairly large, about the size of a marble, and it was gushy and soft. And when he touched it, it remained solid, though. It wasn't like he ate something, though, because it felt more like kind of hard, kind of like a deposit that had been accumulating on the inside, and it may come back if it had been something that had been accumulating on the inside of his body. And it was something that doctors couldn't figure out. So the conclusion that I'm getting to is sometimes the worst of things are going to bring the best of changes. They may seem drastic and ridiculous, but the communication level is going to change drastically. War is going to be a thing of the past for a long time. People are going to be very close, and people are going to try it, and people are going to be more helpful. There is a natural loving instinct in everybody. I mean, even the worst of people have seen something happen and they felt remorse for someone. And that's because that's just something that you're born with. A passing from your past life. That's just something you have. It's something from all your lives. The human race, it's our place on this planet is like a jig. It's a function. A jig is something that's in it's a part of a machinery in a factory that like builds parts and such. That's like a jig. That's what a jig does, pretty much. It makes parts for a machine or something, And we're like a jig inside a large factory. Because what we do affects the workers in the factory. The workers being the gods, the Greys, the Anunnaki, the Nordics, okay? All these great races. Those are all the workers, the people that that have tried to make everything happen. They're not the creators of all of these lives, because they're an accumulation of evolution. The main point I'm trying to get to is that this tsunami that has so far claimed 300 lives in Japan is going to reach in the thousands, and it's going to be followed by many more. And in the future, I'm going to make more videos, and I want to help people prepare for this as it's happening. Unfortunately, it's going to be over the course of like 7 years, so it's going to feel slow, really slow. But what's slow to us is fast in other ways. And I'm going to make like how to survive in nature, and I want everybody to tune in as much as possible. I want to help. I want you to bring questions to me, okay? You bring your questions, I'll do the research. I understand that most people don't have time to do research. I really don't have time either, but I do it anyways. And you bring me your questions, and I'll try to do my best, because I really do want to help everybody. I want to help everybody through this. I want to bring everybody to my level. I want everybody to be prepared and ready for anything. If an earthquake happens, I want everybody to have a piece of rope, have lots of water, be physically strong, and have a good knowledge of what to survive off of and how to catch an edge when falling. It's all helpful. And I was told that if we make a good change by 2015, a lot of drastic measures won't have to happen. And I assume that those drastic measures were a meeting with the Greys, but I'm starting to see that it could be other things, and I'm starting to realize too. That it's not all about the past and researching the past. I mean, for myself, I've researched the past so that way I can get a better understanding of my past lives. Most of my researches that of the past is circulated around dreaming, because in dreaming, that's heaven and hell right there. Heaven and hell is here on earth. You make your own heaven. Hell is having to watch all the thousands of people die. Hell is being chased by a crazy woman with a scythe. Hell is how you live your life. If you live your life making a lot of mistakes, then you're going to dream about terrible things. And those dreams are going to make you realize, okay, I need to make changes. They're going to make you look at your life, and they're going to make you want to, okay, I need to have heavenly dreams. Okay, a lot of people are so ignorant about heaven and hell. They took it so literally, so literal. Like, oh, heaven and hell is an actual place. Heaven has pearly white gates. Come on. When they said heaven has pearly white gates, they were referring to a dream. Okay. You dream your past lives, and you also dream things that you need to see. When you go into your dream state, it's an accumulation of everything. And the main reason why I've researched the past, is because I want to better my future lives. In my future lives, I want them to be enriched with really great dreams. So the better I understand the past and my past life, the better I can make my current life. The better I will treat people around me. And the better that I treat people around me, and the better I am in society right now, the better afterlife I'm going to have. The happier I'm going to be. It makes you happy to do good things. So, the more good things that you do,
That's why the Bible was created. It was created, in a sense, like everybody was too stupid to figure it out themselves. Instead of trying to explain it to everybody, they figured, okay, instead of us Egyptians each studying and going through these, everyone understanding the spirituality of things, one pharaoh decided, let's just have everyone believe in one God. The gods are no more. There are no more multiple gods. There's just one God, and you're all going to believe in this book, And that started a chain reaction all over the world. Like, the people were just too dumb to understand that it's really all about life. Just being alive and enjoying life and enjoying your afterlife and enjoying your dreams. So, a brief point of what I'm getting to is I want to create a better life for myself. I want to have a happy afterlife, and I want to increase my future lives. And by teaching everybody about what I know and how I see the world, everybody else will have better future lives. You get it? So me telling you this isn't useless knowledge, as that may seem. It's all important. It's all good stuff. It's good to be happy. Whatever makes you happy, right? And to better understand continental shifts and drastic changes happening in the world, let's take a look at Venus. Venus once had continents. I'll tell you why. Even though Venus is very hot and dry and hostile right now, there's evidence from NASA's Galileo spacecraft that used infrared like nighttime emissions, or uses infrared like a camera-like thing, where it was noticing that on Venus's surface, up in the higher areas. Let me rephrase that. Analyzing the planet's surface, George Hashimoto from Okayama University in Japan found Venus having highland regions emitting less infrared radiation than the lower ones. And they were emitting this because the highlands had a sort of a rock on them, a fossil-like rock, and granite. And because it has this, that predicts that there was once water there. Not just water, but that there were continents. And I'm sure you're saying, like, how is that possible? That doesn't make any sense. But when you have things that have granite, well, granite simply is just a byproduct or an offshoot from the movement of tectonic plates, continent drifts. It's basically telling us that before we couldn't really. The reason why this is coming out now is because before we couldn't really see the surface of Venus with all its cloudy disposition and hostile environment and tornadoes and such. We couldn't get a good shot of it. But using infrared cameras and such, we now have a good picture. What are you eating, Shadow? No, stop it. God. Okay, anyways. Oh. Yeah, and so it had to have an atmosphere and a mantle. The planet's mantle had to be constantly moving, recycling water and carbon between its interior core. Things like that our planet has now. And it's like the flip of a dime to try to figure out if the temperature of the water was like 0 degrees Celsius or 150 degrees. Could have been boiling lava hot or freezing cold. But because when this would have happened, had to have been when the sun was so incredibly hot, like hotter, a lot hotter and brighter. It wouldn't have lasted but a couple, like a million years or so, or maybe a few million years. Let me take a quick look. I'm not quite sure what. Here we go. David Crisp, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory predicted that it was a few 100 million years. There you go. And that's a pretty long time, right? And so ultimately, life is not subjected to just this planet. It's subjected to. It can be anywhere in the universe, as long as bacteria can start to form. But the bacteria, the planet, the sun, they all have to cohabitate inside the same factory. They all got to work together to survive. Our universe is our ecosystem. Everything works out of balance. And I'm hoping that the sooner we start to collaborate and work together, the sooner we can get some help.